Hi, welcome to Triple C, Candace's College Cooking, where I teach you, the 20-something crowd, the basics and hacks of cooking, as well as how to impress your roommates, friends, or maybe even a date with restaurant-worthy creations. Today's episode is all about the unsung hero of the global kitchen, the humble onion. I'm going to teach you why the onion is one of the most beloved vegetables for cooking, and more importantly, how you can cut them. Okay, you may be thinking, seriously, you think I don't know how to cut an onion? My response is correct. Most people have no idea how to approach an onion, so I'm going to teach you. There are many types of onions, but for purposes of this episode, I'm going to simplify into 3 categories, and then I'm going to show you how to slice and dice them. Actually, slice and chop them, but I just like the way slice and dice sounds. First, you have white, yellow, and red onions. Yes, of course, you have shallots, cipollinis, and of course green onions, but I'm just going to cover the basics today. The white onion. I'm not a fan of the white onion. Sorry, Mr. White Onion. But for me, you're just a little too mushy and lack bold onion flavor. However, that doesn't mean that the white onion isn't for you. Everyone's palates are different, so experiment with all 3 and see which one is best for you. Let's move on to yellow onions. Now, I told you that I'm going to cover 3 categories, but I'm going to deviate slightly because I'm going to talk about the sweet yellow onion. Yes, sweet onions can be a category of their own, but for me, there are sweet yellow onions. I guess not to be confused with, say, the Spanish onion, which is also yellow. I currently live in Georgia, so I would be remiss if I didn't talk about one of Georgia's very best crops, the Vidalia onion. And yes, you have to say it with a southern drawl, Vidalia. Vidalias are sweet, but still pack enough punch to provide an excellent base for whatever you're cooking. And I don't want to diss my home state of Texas, which is the home of the best university on the planet, Texas A&M, Gig 'em. Yes, I'm biased. But Texas sweet onions are also an excellent variety of sweet yellow onion. I use yellow onions ubiquitously in my kitchen. I use them for mirepoix, which is a combination of onions, carrots, and celery that you use in a lot of Italian cooking. I caramelize them for French onion soup and for my friend Ken's award-winning onion dip. I also slice them and serve them with my husband Todd's amazing big green egg barbecued meats. Said another way, whenever a recipe calls for cooked onions, white, yellow, or red, my go-to is yellow Vidalia or Texas sweet onions. So you may be asking, well, when should I use a red onion? I'm glad you asked. I also love red onions. They pack a bright, sweet flavor as well as a beautiful, vibrant color. Remember, you eat with your eyes first, so you want creations to be visibly appealing. I typically use them in salads, a green salad, a tuna salad, a chicken salad, and I also use them whenever I want, say, a quick pickle, pickled onion for, say, a Thai curry. I also like to incorporate red onions when I'm making sauteed vegetables. By the way, if you find this tutorial helpful, please subscribe and like this episode. So, with that foundation, let's talk about how do you slice and chop onions. First, start with a large, sharp knife. I prefer what's called a chef's knife. I recognize you're either in your late teens or 20-something. Investing in your hard-earned money in knives is likely not at the top of your priority list. Guess what? That's okay. Grab the hand-me-down knives from your parents or, Goodwill, and invest in a knife sharpener. This one is called an AccuSharp. It's $10.88 on Amazon, and the blades are even reversible. We've had ours for at least 15 years and it still works great. Let me show you how it works. You hold your knife and you run the sharpener across the blade like this. And all you really need is a couple of swipes and it works just fine. Don't try to use those crazy sharpeners on the back of an electric can opener, if those even still exist. They've probably been 86 long ago. The AccuSharp will literally bring the dullest knife back to life. Now make sure and wash off your knife before using it, because no one wants metal shards in their food. Okay, now for the demo. If you're gonna use the entire onion, which I'm gonna use this entire onion, you're gonna lop off both ends, okay? Consider these kind of the North Pole and the South Pole. That's basically where the root is, and then the other end. All right, and then you're going to cut through the poles, okay? So if this was the North Pole and that's the South Pole, you cut straight down the middle. All right, put one end to the side. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna peel off what's called the onion skin. Now you wanna think about what you're making. For purposes of this chopping demo, let's say that I'm gonna make spaghetti sauce, which calls for a cup of chopped onions, which is vaguely equivalent to one whole onion. This is about, a half a cup, and the other half is the other half cup. There's a number of different ways to chop an onion, but I'm gonna show you the way that works for me. And again, if it works for me, it can work for you. I was talking to my mom last summer about all sorts of things, and the subject of chopping onions came up. I store my onions in the bottom drawer of my fridge, so they're cold, but my mom was talking about growing up, and she said that they stored their root vegetables in the basement. My mom grew up in Buffalo, New York, and they didn't have central air, so really the basement was the coldest part of the house, apart from the fridge. I was asking her about, why do you cry when you chop onions? And she said, when they're warm, they exude more liquid, and they literally used to stick a piece of white bread in their mouths while they were chopping onions so they wouldn't cry. For me, an easier solution, if you have the space, is to just store your onions in the fridge, chop them when they're cold, and that way there's less juices, and in return, you're less likely to have to stick a piece of bread in your mouth while you're chopping onions. All right, again, I already, lopped off both ends of the onion. I cut it in half, pole over pole, peeled off the onion skin. Okay, now we're gonna start chopping latitudinally, like latitudinal lines. Remember, if it's a globe, latitude is like the equator, it's around the globe. About 1/8 of an inch thick. And again, I start at the pole end and I work towards the middle. So take it nice and slow. There's no awards for chopping fast unless you're on the Food Network. And trust me, there's greater consequences if you cut yourself. So you lay the onion on its side and let's give it, again, about 1/8 of an inch chop. And then you're gonna rotate it the other side and start chopping again. And as you can see, this is gonna produce nice uniform slices. Now, when you get to this point, I actually turn it over because it just is more balanced. All right, so that's how you chop a half an onion. Again, uniform pieces are super important when you're cooking, so that will get you there. Okay, let's take the other half of the onion and I'm gonna slice it. Now there's two ways that you can slice an onion. You can do it either latitudinally or pole over pole. If I'm caramelizing onions for a soup, I would pick latitudinally because it produces nice thin slices and they're gonna sweat out and release their moisture quickly. Conversely, if I'm, say, stewing meats, or sauteing vegetables, onions and my vegetables like zucchini and tomatoes, I'm gonna go pole over pole, and that produces a larger, thicker slice, and it's gonna break down more slowly when you're cooking, resulting in a heartier bite. So let me show you how to slice. Again, this is latitudinally. You wanna just give it an easy slice and hope they don't all roll off your bowl. And you'll see that's gonna come apart real easy, all right? Conversely, if I am going to do longitudinally, okay, so pole over pole, and you can still see, so this would be the North Pole. This is basically kind of the equator, all right? I'm gonna slice it, I'm gonna turn it, and I'm gonna slice it into, I'm gonna call it chunks, if you will. And again, this is gonna produce much thicker slices. Okay. If I'm gonna put it again in a stewed meat, go pole over pole. It holds up better to what you're cooking in the oven if you have longer cook times. If you found this episode informative, please subscribe to my channel. Like this episode, share on social, share my dog barking in the background because she's awesome. Her name is Roto. And thanks for watching Triple C. Remember, to share a meal is to share a life.